Welcome to my tutorial playthrough for Rollergames for the NES. This was a game that was extremely difficult for me when I was younger. And I had a cheat using save and load states a little bit later when I was playing it on emulation, which was not at the time when I was younger. This was probably like another 8 years later from that point. And I pretty much had a cheat through it. And I wasn't using save and load states on emulators to practice games back then. You know, I never really thought to do that. But this time I did use save and load states on difficult sections to practice them, and then I'd go back and do them legit. You get infinite continues, and I would have started using the third character because she seems like she might be the fastest character. She or he, I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to be, but that character seems to be faster. This slow, fat character is the slowest, but I didn't know because I didn't really give a shit. I just started playing the game and working on it. This first level you're going to see is sloppy because this was my first time playing in a very long time, and I didn't die on the first level, so I never had to redo it. I'm only posting the successful sections, so you know, this was just me adapting to it as it came up. But yeah, it seems like the third character is probably the best because she is the fastest character, I think. The middle one might be fast too. I don't know exactly, but the speed helps a lot because with the combat, you can get to your opponents quicker and take them out. You can, you know, avoid getting hit by enemies faster, and you can move through the levels faster too, which could be beneficial. So I think that's the best character to use. I found out the hard way when I tried to use this fat guy to take on the final boss, and he was very slow for taking on the final boss because you only have a short window to hit the final boss. So you'll see me switch characters at that point. This game wasn't nearly as hard as I remember it being. It only took me about 2 hours and 57 minutes to beat. I'm picking up it again, you know, now and actually going through it legit. So it wasn't too bad, but it has some bullshit where, you know, they try to throw you off with the timing of the jumps. And it can be tricky because your character still rolls from the momentum when you let go of the controller after moving in a direction. So you do have to get used to the rolling type of control. But it's actually a great game. It mixes obstacle navigation with beat-em-up style gameplay, which is pretty unique. So it's a cool game. Very good game. You know, I do recommend for, you know, to get the most out of it, to use save and load states to practice sections that you have trouble with. That way you can spend less time having to redo an entire section just because you messed up on one little part. You know, you can practice it, and then when you get there, you won't be as nervous because you'll know what to do. You'll have, you know, muscle memory. Just try to practice it and get decent at it. Then you have a good chance. And by that, you know, by doing that, you'll probably beat the game a lot faster. That's what I do for, you know, most old games nowadays. But yeah, for this, you're just gonna, you know, beat all these opponents down, and then the boss is very easy. You just let the boss run and tire himself out, or herself. I don't know if it's a him or a her, but it could be a fucking toaster as long as it dies. You know, I don't give a shit. But yeah, so the boss will run until it exhausts itself. At that point, you just punch it to death, pretty much, when he's out of breath. So, you know, it's very easy. The boss does do a lot of damage if it runs into you, but well, maybe not too much, but it can run into you over and over again, so you got to be careful. But when it's tired out, just punch it to death. And after doing that twice, it should be dead. You can also use your power moves by pressing B and A at the same time. You'll do a power move. That may kill it in one hit. I wasn't really using those moves because I had both buttons set to turbo, and it fucks up the timing when you press both buttons at the same time, so it made it harder to do the special moves. This is your first auto-scrolling level. There's 2 of these in the game. And the second one of these can be very hard. I mean, this one's not too bad, but it can still be tricky. You're just going to have to, you know, practice and get used to where you're going to position yourself and dodge things. You see, you can take quite a few hits. And the end boss that you have to dodge is very easy. So, you know, even if you get there with like no life like I did, I was able to beat it on the first time when I got to it. So, this level really isn't that hard. It's one of the easier levels, probably. You can see I didn't play it that much because I didn't really memorize a lot of where I had to go at this point. So I probably had only tried it a few times before I beat it. But yeah, you just, you know, you want to jump when you get up on the top of the ramps for extra height. For this part, you can just kind of jump and get in a rhythm and dodge these. Very easy. I didn't find things to get hard until the 3rd level, the next level. But still, it was close. But now, even if you have like no life, this boss is very easy. You don't have to fight it. All you do is dodge. So I stayed all the way on the bottom and just jumped the missile on the bottom. That's all you got to focus on. Just focus on the one on the very bottom that explodes. And jump it as needed. And that's all you have to do. You have to do it for a while, but after a while the boss will just leave. Now, there's a really bullshitty part. Very bad design, in my opinion, from what I played. Where there's another auto-scrolling level, but what makes it very hard is that there's a truck at the end that drops barrels. And the truck also backs up into you and can kill you in one hit if the truck touches you. But the big problem is that as the truck gets closer to you, you have like no room to dodge the barrels. So it just seems like you have to take a shitload of hits and just hope you survive. So I really don't have any good tips for that. I think it's just kind of a shitty part. To me, it was cheap. I thought it was kind of a cheap part. But, you know, maybe there's a better way to play it. But, you know, I didn't see it when I watched videos. Even in the speed runs, the guys were taking massive damage. So, I'm not sure if there's a proper way to play that section. But anyway, this part is easy. You know, the 3rd level doesn't get hard until 3-2. So, you know, this part, you can take damage. And like I said, I mean, I didn't even have to play this. I think I might have beat this section the first time I played it. It was very easy. Also, with those wrecking balls, I believe you can go through the cable part, as long as you don't touch that ball. So, that's another way to do it. I don't think I knew about that when I was playing it the first time, but I was checking some videos and stuff like that. But yeah, do your best to dodge this. So if you can take quite a few hits, the main issue in this game is not usually taking damage. The main issue is usually falling in pits, because the game gets very hard as far as navigating obstacles later on. There's some very tricky parts. The game's really not that bad if you take the time to learn some of the sections and then put it together. The sections are not super long, but you know, it can still be very hard. And it's going to depend on your skill level, obviously, because, you know, even practicing this, if you're not used to going through a lot of these kind of games, it could be an extremely difficult game, I'm sure. For me, it wasn't too bad, you know. It was kind of like a moderate game for an NES game for you know, for what I'm used to. It was in the moderate range. Maybe the upper moderate, you know. But nothing too hard. Maybe it's like on the level of Contra or Super C, which both of those weren't too hard for me either. But yeah, so here, this is going to be really memorizing, you know, how to move and where to position yourself, obviously. You know, take your time with the waterfalls. You got to keep in mind the momentum of the skates. So if you try to move and you don't have enough speed, you won't jump far at all. And that can really fuck you up. That's what can make this game hard with the platforming. So you have to, you know, keep that in mind. These parts are usually very easy. You know, you just, if you find the right position, these enemies will pretty much just walk into your fist and die. I was using a rapid fire controller, so I didn't have to mash the button. So I was just holding punch and positioning myself pretty much. And this part's very easy. But these parts are still tricky because of the platforming. So, yeah, as I'm going up that ramp, I'll punch once when that guy gets close to me to take him out. Otherwise, you can easily roll back down into the water. So keep that in mind. You know, you're just going to have to pretty much get used to this. But yeah, for this part, you want to resist the slope so you don't go down, obviously. And then you kind of just go down the slope and jump off. And be wary of the fire. Don't worry about getting hit by the occasional waterfall. You know, because it'll knock you down on land and you can still get up. But you don't take that much damage from that. So don't worry too much about trying to avoid that. And you don't get a checkpoint here. This is the boss. So you'll just have to beat this. This enemy is very annoying, this jumping enemy. The boss is easy, but this enemy can be very annoying. I didn't really have a good strategy for it at this time. I probably would have used my special weapon, you know, my special moves, which do massive damage. They can kill these things fast, so if I had to do it again, that's probably what I would do. And now I had very little life, but I was still able to beat this boss. All I did was just keep jump kicking it until it died. Very easy way to take it out. So I'd recommend doing that. I don't have any great tips for that part because, you know, it didn't take me too long to beat, so I didn't refine it. But now you'll be on stage 4. And I believe this is the next auto-scrolling level. And this level's kind of shitty because The level, stay up here immediately. Make sure you're holding up as soon as the level starts, so you'll be up here immediately. Otherwise, you will get hit by one of the dogs. Now, you can probably kill the dogs, but I never figured out how to do it. I'm sure I was missing something. But anyway, stay up on the top for now. And, avoid the barrels and just stay up on the top. And then go to the middle. And you got to jump at the exact time with those motorcycles to go over both fireballs. See, right at the edge, you got to jump to make that jump. It's a wide jump, and you got to make it perfectly. So you just got to get used to that. And stay on this top. You don't want to take that bottom route. There's a lot of barrels and bullshit down there, so just stay on the top. Now you got to get on these narrow beams, which is a lot easier than it looks. Try to line up the beams with the arrows, because in certain parts the beams are lined up perfectly with those arrows. See, like that. So use that as a guide. But then the last one is a little bit closer to the middle. It's like in the center, so be ready for that. But you should adjust that pretty fast. I don't really know how to fight the dogs, so you'll see me take the hits there. It would be useful to get here with a full life bar because this boss is bullshit. And I didn't know how to dodge those either, so I absorbed those hits. But now is where the level gets to be complete bullshit. So, if that truck touches you, you die in one hit. So that starts off the bullshit. But now, I like to stay in the bottom and just jump the barrels that I can. And, usually a barrel will hit me and make me invincible briefly as the truck is backing up, and then the truck won't kill me. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but this is how I ended up doing it. I don't have any good tips for this. The only other tip I have is that if you have a full health bar, you can stay in the bottom, not bottom right corner, but a little bit farther in. You can stay and you can just absorb all the damage without dodging. And you'll have enough life to survive. But if you have enough life, you can do what I did here in this bottom left corner and just dodge the ones that you can and try not to fuck up on the ones that you can easily dodge. And just take the hits on the ones that are too close to dodge. That's what I ended up doing. I mean, I had to play it sloppy because I didn't know what else to do on that part. This section's not bad. This is just going to be getting used to the flow of the level, but it's not a hard area. There's not a lot of platforming. Platforming is the hardest part of this game, really. I'm sure it would have helped to have one of the faster characters. So, I do recommend, as I said, pick the third character if you play this game. I wouldn't recommend going with the fat character. I just, didn't really think about it. I just jumped into the game. I assume that they probably all played exactly the same, but there is differences. The main thing I noticed was the speed difference. The third character is much faster than this fat guy. So jump and punch to kill those guys that are on the bridge as you're going across the gap. Make sure you punch as you're crossing to kill one of those. Don't worry too much about these one-hit guys. Just try to get past them. If you take a little damage, it's not a big deal because you'll get a checkpoint when you get to the door at the end of this area. That'll be your next checkpoint. So all you got to do is survive this, this little zone here. Those guys can be annoying sometimes. Sometimes it's better just to leave. But yeah, here you just kill these guys. If you position yourself right, you can punch multiple of them at the same time. Don't forget, you can also waste all your special moves. You have 3. See those in the bottom right, those 3 icons? That means you have 3 special moves remaining. I didn't really use them much. This part is tough. I practice this with states because it's very hard. So, there's a part where you want to jump a little bit earlier than you would expect. And if you don't do that, you'll jump over the raft and go into the pit every time. It's bullshitty. So you're going to have to practice it, and you're going to have to try to jump early on one of the pits where the second raft is. So you're going to have to get used to that. That's just going to be practice. This part's not too tough. At least this initial part. You just want to jump at the end of the platform where the water is. Don't jump too early or you'll get hit by the barrel and fall in the water. For this part, if you keep moving, the birds will mostly, or the fish will mostly miss you. You may get hit occasionally, but they do very little damage, and they won't knock you into the water, so they're not too dangerous. Now this part is tricky. This part's easy, but there's 2 more platforms that are a little tricky. Edge yourself to the platform, don't try to do it fast. And just jump a little bit onto the platform so you don't go over. And just do another very small jump to get off of it. And now edge the screen again to that last plank of wood. Get on there with a small jump. And get ready to jump and get onto that platform. Get ready as it's about to appear. It's going to take a little practice. Then edge off again. And that was the hardest part of this level. So at this point, you're just going to kill some very easy enemies. If you want, you can try to time your special move against the boss of the level, but it's going to be harder to hit with that, so I would just recommend using jump kicks. But if you land a special move, I believe it does damage equal to 2 jump kick attacks. So, you know, it can make it a little faster. Remember that your special moves always refill when you get to another section of the level, another checkpoint. So, you know, you don't have to, like, save them up or anything. You can only hold 3, and you can't earn more, so. I like to stay in the middle of this area here and just wait for him to jump out, then retreat as he's in. And you have to time your jump kick. You have to be coming back in with your jump kick as he's coming down. So the timing is a little tricky. Initially, I had the timing down, and then I started fucking it up, but you'll get the idea. But you don't want to wait for him to be in range when you jump kick, because then you'll miss him. You want to be doing it as he's coming down, see, like that. So you just got to practice the timing and get it down to muscle memory if you want to get it down well. It's very easy. It just can be a bit tedious, and if you don't have the timing down, then it can be kind of hard. But it really isn't hard. The last boss is kind of bullshitty, though. But I'll have a pretty decent method for it to make it. It won't be too hard with the way I ended up doing it. It's really not that bad if you use the third character. Just don't use this fat fuck for the final boss. But yeah, not much to say. It's the same pattern again and again, pretty much. Doesn't change. So you're not going to have much that you have to do with this part. But the platforming from here on in is going to get, you know, a lot harder. So luckily the game isn't that long, and you know, you do have checkpoints and unlimited continue. So if you're on an emulator, you can save state and always come back to the game as well. You know. So, you know. Now, of course, when I was young, I used to come back to the game a lot, and I still couldn't beat the third level. So, you know, it's going to depend on your skill level. But, you know, I think it'll help anyone to save and load state to practice parts. You know, that it's a much more efficient way to practice. So I highly recommend that. It's definitely worth playing on an emulator for that. But this is definitely not a game for someone who's not experienced with these kind of games, because it's not an easy game, you know. It's going to be a frustrating game for someone who, you know, if you've played through a lot of these games, then it's probably not going to be too bad for you, I wouldn't think. So yeah, here, just follow the route that I take. I do take a few wrong turns, so, you know, obviously don't take the dead ends. But this is a very easy section. I mean, it's not super easy, but it's pretty easy. It's not that long. It shouldn't take you too long to be able to get through this section. You know, these are just your standard opponents that you've been fighting, so just try to move around and dodge them and take them out. There's going to be an annoying guy that blocks most of your attacks. There's one attack that he cannot block, and that's your power move. So if you can, try to jump kick him, or use, you know, 2 of your power moves to take him out. See, like, one good one after a few hits just kills him, and that makes it much easier. So I'd recommend using the power moves for him, because you're not going to fight any more hard enemies on this section. So you can waste all your special moves, not have to worry about it. Just kill the guys that are in your direct path that you need to get rid of, you know, but don't... It's not good to spend too much time fighting these guys, because they can cause problems. I mean, if they're causing a big problem, try to deal with them and get them out of the way, but this is a dead end, so I wasted my time going here. So, you know, don't go that way. Because those little detours, you can waste some of your life. You do get to take quite a bit of damage, though, and there's no pits here, so it's a pretty easy section. Now this is where things start to get a lot harder. The best thing I can say with this is keep an eye on the way that the conveyor belts are moving, because that's going to affect the speed that you move. When, you know, you may have resistance sometimes, and you may have to account for that. Plus the momentum of your skates rolling, you know, you have to account for all that. The best thing I can tell you with this is to basically slow your roll. You know, in other words, when you're, you know, go to full speed and then take your thumb off the directional pad and let yourself just roll, and then jump over the conveyor belt so that you're not going too fast. Otherwise, you'll very easily be going too fast and you'll just go in the spikes. You'll jump too far and go in the spikes. You don't want to do that. So see here, I get my roll going. See, I'm getting the roll. Then I take my thumb off and I just jump. And now I'm just jumping. I'm just letting the roll of the skate take me, and I'm not holding the directional pad at that point. And you want to get used to releasing that directional pad and just rolling and jumping with it. That's really important. This part is tough. You just got to decide what hits you're going to take. That's about all you can really do, because, I mean, I don't know how to dodge it without getting hit. I mean, I'm sure you could get really good at it, but even speedrunners take the hits from what I saw. It's a tough part. The main concern most of the time is not falling in the pits. So, just try not to get knocked into the hole and try to time it. And that's just going to take some practice. I found this section to be quite easy. It looks hard, but it didn't take me long to do. The trickiest part was at the end, where you have to get on a small platform. You are timed for this. You have a very short amount of time is what I mean. But you have plenty of time for this part. So you're not going to have to worry about running out of time. It'd be hard to run out of time on this. So you're just going to have to get used to this. I mean, there's really not any great tips for it aside from learning it. You want to be in the middle of that area so that you can get on that platform. And now you're going to be approaching the boss soon. So for the boss, it can be kind of tricky. Because what you want to do for the boss is you're going to have to. I would recommend using the female character, the third character, and then what you're going to want to do with that third character is use your 3 special attacks on the boss, and try to land all 3 if you can when you have some room to land them, because that'll do 6 jump kicks worth of damage. It's a lot of damage. And then you're going to have to try to hit the boss when she lands, or when it lands, from doing its jump attacks. That's when it seems to be the most vulnerable. So since you're using a fast character, you should be able to get in a punch combo occasionally on the boss when it lands. And that's really the main thing that you're going to be doing. You can try to jump kick it as well. The boss will combo you to death. It's extremely dangerous. So you don't want to spend a lot of time trying to hit it. Only try to hit it after it lands from the jumps. And that's really the main advice I can give. Aside from that, you are going to be fighting a few opponents, 6 enemies before the boss, but they're very easy. And you get a checkpoint right at the boss. So, not right at the boss, but right before the boss in that area. So, you have, as many tries as you need to beat it. So, with that in mind, it shouldn't be too bad. So, yeah, let me know if you need any more information, and if you have any suggestions for, future runs. And thanks for watching.